financial back.
Joining me now is United States Air Force veteran and candidate for the U.S. Senate to represent the state of Louisiana, Colonel Rob Maness. Colonel, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, thank you for your service to our nation. I always like to start out with that. Appreciate it, sir.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the less than 1% of young Americans that are still volunteering to serve.
Me too. All right, let's talk about this 9/11 Commission report, these 28 classified pages. Why, in your opinion, sir, why is there a call to declassify them now?
Well, you know, in war, there are 4 steps that need to be taken, and we professionals understand what the very first one is, and that's identify your enemy. Look, I was in the Pentagon on 9/11. I was asked to help plan the war on terrorism after 9/11. And if we didn't have access to the 28 pages, then we haven't properly identified the enemy. And if the rumors are true, or even close to being true, that individuals that are officials in the Saudi government gave resources and logistics support to the 9/11 hijackers, which 15 of them were Saudi Arabian, by the way, then we need to really take a look at that and find out who they were, where they're at today, and what their continued conduct is being, because we need to operationally get into that enemy's thinking and organization and make sure that we've gotten to everybody that we should be getting to.
Right, and Colonel, I understand the opposition argument here a little bit, that we don't want to give away our secrets, give away our intelligence, so that our enemies, the terrorists, are able to know how we're going to catch them or know what we know. But taking that into consideration, do you still feel that we should declassify these pages?
That's almost laughable. It's been 16 years. None of the things that I've heard about would reveal any sources or methods of intelligence networks and those kinds of things. And by the way, the president and his administration reveal all sorts of things that shouldn't be revealed, like numbers of troops we're putting on the ground, what units they're from, what units went after Osama bin Laden and took him out, and then later lost a helicopter because they were still in the theater. Their families are being threatened. My family has been threatened. American airmen's families are being threatened every day by IS because we've revealed operational data that shouldn't have been revealed. But there's nothing in the 28 pages at this point that's going to make that much of a difference, and we need to get it out there to the American public, and most importantly, to our military personnel and intelligence personnel that continue to plan and fight this war against terrorism.
All right, if there's not much to that argument, and that's the main argument that's coming from the other side, why doesn't President Obama want this release, or why is he hesitating and just projecting that it might come several months from now if there's nothing to that other argument?
Well, the political class, and it doesn't matter what letter you have behind your name, they really want to protect the political relationships that apparently these 28 redacted pages is protecting. And that's unacceptable, because those political relationships aren't nearly as important as the vital U.S. interest, and more importantly, the lives of the young men and women that we continue to lose today in this global war. The Islamic State continues to declare and fight war against us all over the world. Just look back at San Bernardino and just recently Brussels. An American Air Force wife and her family were attacked, and she lost her life at that airline counter. And it's time for us to fight back with everything we've got and completely mobilize our entire nation. And getting at what's in those 28 pages is extremely important.
Right, and Congressman Thomas Massie said that the contents of the 28 pages is shocking, made him rethink the entirety of what he knew about history. Colonel, from what you know, I know you haven't read these pages, but from what you know about the war, what you know having worked in intelligence, do you expect us to find ties from Saudi Arabia to the terrorists that attacked us on 9/11?
Even if we had one name, say at a worker at a consulate in San Francisco, that might have supported 2 of the hijackers out in that area, even if we had one name and one time frame when they were there and who they were connected to, that could be a treasure trove of information against the enemy even today. And we need to get at that information, because it's absolutely abhorrent that our American military forces and allied forces don't have access to every single bit of information, and we don't. I was in on the top secret planning for 9/11, post 9/11 in Afghanistan, and I never saw anything that was in the 28 pages and was never told that this was part of the redacted information. So we need to make sure that our troops and our professionals have all the right information, and most of all, we can't protect a political relationship at the expense of the lives of the American people.
Right, and Colonel, maybe you can explain that to me, this political relationship or this facade, this image of being friends with Saudi Arabia. Why is that so important to the Obama administration? What is that protecting, pretending that we're best friends, if there truly is this enormous disconnect that they essentially, potentially, could have funded the 9/11 attacks?
Well, the relationship goes way back in modern times, back to the first Bush administration and Desert Shield and Desert Storm, when Saddam Hussein went into Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia gave us the opportunity to establish bases and boots on the ground there in the country. So from that strategic perspective, it is a fairly important relationship, but it's not more important than the lives of Americans, the lives of our allies and their families around the world where the Islamic State is attacking us. And we've got to have access to that information, even if it's, like I said, even if it's one name, that could lead to stopping more than one attack and saving more than one life.
Should Saudi Arabia, as a government, be held accountable for their citizens' actions? Because like you mentioned before, 15 of the 9/11 hijackers were Saudi Arabian citizens. Should the government be involved in that at all?
Well, if there were government participants in a conspiracy that supported these folks logistically, and let's face it, there were 19 folks from a third world country. Not all were well educated. They had to have some support in the country. We know they had support. And if there were people working in the government for Saudi Arabia, then we need to ferret that out, and we need to identify those folks and find out what their connections are to see if it was a government effort or if it was just one or two or three or four people working as a cell together inside the government, because their government could be penetrated also.
Right, and that's why it's important for us to see these pages. Colonel,
Yeah.
before we go, talk to me about your campaign for U.S. Senate. You're running in the state of Louisiana. What called you to run?
Well, I'm running for the United States Senate because the career politicians have failed us. I'm running to save the republic. We need real leaders that have learned their skills outside of the political world, and I've learned mine through 3 decades of military experience, all the way from the lowest listed rank to the rank of full colonel, and I've commanded at 3 different levels. As I said, I worked in the Pentagon. I've advised presidents and secretaries of defense and chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I'm an expert in nuclear operations and command and control, which is what I did at the Pentagon before I started working on the war plan for countering the global war on terror. And I've commanded an American B-1 bomber unit in the war on terror after I left the Pentagon and went back to the field. So I have a full, broad understanding and knowledge depth of where we need to go and how to protect this country. And we've really got to get the career politicians out of office. We've got to put real Americans that have real leadership. And in this case, I think that national security experience and leadership and education at Harvard University and at the U.S. Navy War College is paramount, and really is a set of qualifications that far exceeds whatever any other candidate here in Louisiana is going to have. And quite frankly, we need leaders that are going to go to Washington and lead the rebellion against the political elite and put the power of the U.S. government back into the hands where it belongs, to the American people.
Right, it sounds like you're very highly qualified for this position. Tell me really quickly before we go, what are your issues? We have the Republicans in this election, for the most part, talking about low taxes, individual freedoms, getting government out of the way. And then we have the Democrats who want to increase taxes. They want to expand government. They want to provide a socialist state. What issues are resonating with voters in Louisiana?
Well, first of all, our economy is in the dumps. We've had less than 0.5% GDP growth in the last quarter. We continue to be at less than 1% GDP growth. We have over $19 trillion in debt. And we need to do everything we can to get the federal government off of the states and the people's back. We need to get back to where we're establishing small businesses and have policies that encourage small business creation and ownership, because that's where the American engine of economics is. And we need to fix that. We need to fix it quickly. We've got to get a hold of the tax system and abolish the IRS. I support the fair tax because it eliminates the payroll tax and the income tax and the corporate income tax and the death tax and all of those taxes associated with the IRS and the original income tax. And We need to do that to put more money in the hands of the citizen of the United States where they're making the decision,
right,
when and where they're going to spend their money.
That's the backbone of our economy. Individuals, entrepreneurs, small businesses deciding what they want to do with their money and keeping government out of the way. Colonel, I appreciate you coming on the program, sir. It was great to talk to you. After the break, President Obama can't get refugees into the United States the regular way. So now he's devising under-the-table methods to slip in 10,000 more refugees this year. Scott Greer is with me next.